we need to find out where the pain points are for our customers and where our solution fits in, so that we can target that marketing to make sure we're getting the information to the right people, and so they can make decisions.
All right, well, welcome to the Wisenetix Podcast. My name is Daryl. I am your host with the most, and today I've got Keith Erlandson with me. Keith, super happy to have you on the show.
Hey, happy to be here, Daryl. Thanks for the invitation.
Hey, no problem. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you do?
I'm a veterinarian by training, graduate of Iowa State in 2004 with my veterinary degree. I also have a master's degree in veterinary microbiology from Iowa State, and also did a master's of business administration at the University of South Dakota. I've been involved in quite a few aspects of swine production. Started out in a private swine consulting clinic. Worked for a large integrator. Worked for a couple pharmaceutical companies. In 2015, had the opportunity to go over to China and work for a top integrator there as the director of veterinary services. About a year ago, I took a job with MedGene as acting as both a key account manager and technical services veterinarian, supporting our prescription platform vaccines.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty varied experience there.
I tell people I'm a boring person who's done interesting things.
You have certainly done interesting things. I don't know about the boring part, but to each our own there. I always ask everybody a few questions here before we kind of jump into what we do in the marketing and all that fun stuff. But what would you consider a few top achievements of yours, and what did you learn from them?
Yeah, so out of high school, I wasn't ready for college or anything, so I joined the Army for about 5 years. Went to basic training, advanced individual training, and probably, top accomplishment there was graduating from airborne school, which is jumping out of an airplane is a completely foreign experience for most of us. But what that taught me is 90% of it's just showing up and doing it. Perfection will come later. You just show up and try your best, and that'll get you a long way in this life. So.
Yeah, no, that for sure. Showing up is a big part of everything. One, thank you for your service. My grandfather served. He was a pilot actually for the Navy, and he would have told you, why are you jumping out of a perfectly good plane? So just a fun little aside there. But last question before we get into more of the business type stuff, Keith, is how would your parents describe what you do?
My parents have no idea what I do. They had some idea when I was in practice looking at pigs every day. Now they have no idea what I do. But my daughter probably put it best when she was 4 or 5, and I moved from a production company to a pharmaceutical company. And my wife overheard her say to one of her friends, "Well, my daddy's not a veterinarian anymore." So that kind of piqued my wife's interest, and she's like, "Well, if daddy's not a veterinarian anymore, what is he?" And my daughter said, "He's a conference call guy."
There's a Cosby clip for that. Kids say the darndest things. Oh, that's funny. I'm sure mine would probably say the same thing if I asked. So I get that. Just for the audience, just in case they don't know, because I know it's a relatively new company. What does MedGene Labs do?
So we make prescription platform vaccines, which is a new category of vaccines that the USDA introduced several years ago. What we do is take a gene of interest from a virus, and we can insert that into our baculovirus platform and grow up the protein antigen, which we can then harvest and adjuvant and make into a vaccine. So we have the ability to make vaccines for lots of different viruses, as long as we know the target protein for the immune system, and we can get a sequence for that gene. We can put it into our baculovirus vector and make that protein to put into a vaccine. So
That's some really cool stuff right there.
It's really exciting technology, and I'm excited as we're getting it into our veterinarians and customers' hands how they're going to use the product in the future, because I'm sure they're going to come up with creative ways to use the vaccine within their systems that we haven't even thought of yet.
Oh, for sure. Customers will always find something that we haven't thought of.
Absolutely.
That kind of leads me to my next question for you is, MedGene's pretty new, right? And the product itself, right? So what essential marketing tactics are you guys using right now? What's in your toolbox?
Yeah, so we're a small company. The swine sales team is myself and another veterinarian. Then we have a national sales manager who takes care of both cattle and swine. So we're pretty small. We don't have a lot of marketing on board. We're trying to grow that, but right now it's a lot of just get out there and talk to people and tell them what we have. We don't have a lot of marketing, but people are excited about the technology. So that in and of itself is a pretty neat marketing tool, that we've got new technology that can help your pigs be healthier.
That makes sense. Especially if you're a newer company and you're pretty scrappy, right? You want to make sure that you're not spending all your money on marketing. So would you say, like, right now, and this is what I refer to it too, and it's a lot of what we do too, is a lot of like shaking hands, kissing babies, really just talking?
Absolutely. And part of that is, it's not that we don't want to spend the money on marketing. It's this is a new product for us too. So, we need to find out where the pain points are for our customers, and where our solution fits in, so that we can target that marketing to make sure we're getting the information to the right people, and so they can make decisions.
Absolutely. And I think when we first started talking, you said something that stuck with me, and it really goes with, what you just said, is about uncovering pain points, right? But also being like honest and open about it. And you're bringing a new product to market, and you want to make sure that you're really solving a true problem. So I can definitely appreciate that approach. With that, are you guys producing and sharing technical content right now? And do you guys feel like that's important for brand positioning?
That's coming. We haven't really got that ramped up yet, but yeah, that's definitely in our forecast to get that content produced and out there.
Sure. And I'm sure that's going to help with, I'm familiar with swine nutritionists more so because my boss was and is a swine nutritionist, right? But I'm sure swine vets are just as data driven as the nutritionists are.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to bring the data into these modern systems. They're all based on science and economics, and you've got to have the data to back up what you say. If I say the product's going to give you a 10-to-1 ROI, then you better have some data behind it to show me that you're going to get that ROI.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you guys have that in the pipe. I know it's important for us, and I can only imagine how much more important it even is for you guys. So props to you guys on being on that roadmap there. This is kind of a fun question, Keith, and I bet I get a range of answers on this, but what's a common myth about your job?
A common myth about my job? Well, some days I don't even know what my job is, other than to try to help customers as best I can. Help them provide solutions, whether that's our product or somebody else's product, or management change, whatever that may be. But as veterinarians on a whole, I think the myth is that we're only good at the medicine part. But the training that we receive in veterinary school is, if you just substitute problem A for disease X, and the investigation and possible remedies, that whole process is very similar. So veterinarians are really good at problem solving. You just have to set them up with the right information and point them towards the right goal. So we don't we don't necessarily have to be limited to just the health aspect, because in modern production systems, you can't just limit yourself to the health. You got to understand the whole thing, and we really have to work as teams in these modern systems to make sure that we're taking into account all the important factors.
Sure. And that makes sense. Even for yourself right now, I mean, you're really highly educated, not even just from looking at a veterinary side, and modern production so scaled now that you must have to have like a pulse on what's happening everywhere on the farm.
You really have to. And, veterinary school just prepares you to, it sets the stage for you to actually start learning once you get into practice, because once you're out there and, okay, I know how to identify the disease and I know how to confirm that's the problem, but in order to solve it or to figure out where it came from, you have to talk with farm managers and production managers and workers on the farm and figure out, all the things that you have to change just to affect the health of the system. It's incredible the amount of interconnectedness there is between all the different departments and people within a system. So understanding how all that fits together is incredibly important.
Yeah, sounds like you got to put on your Batman hat. Really have to investigate a lot, put on like a little detective hat when things are maybe not necessarily going wrong, but need to be adjusted or need to be looked at another way.
Right. You're always looking at not only the disease pressure, but the environmental impacts that's having on the disease pressure, the management impacts that are having on that, nutritional, genetics. Getting into these investigations, it opens up you gotta have to look at a whole bunch of different things, because everything can affect what the one thing you're looking at.
I learn more and more every day just doing this podcast. This industry is so interesting to me. And I would have never thought that the vet side had to be a detective. But, as we talk here, it makes a lot of sense to me. Another fun question for you. What's an important lesson that you've learned over your career, Keith?
Everybody knows something, and everybody has a piece to the puzzle, whether they know it or not. Everywhere from the CEO of the company all the way down to the guy on farm that's washing the farrowing room, getting ready for the next group of animals to come in. So those guys, everybody knows what's going on in their little part. They don't always know that what they're doing or how they're doing something can have a big impact on everything else. And sometimes you think that they're doing it one way, but you go out and actually talk to people and realize that's not the way it's actually getting done. So always question your assumptions and talk to everybody. There's everybody's got information to contribute, and everybody's got something to teach you.
I love that. And I agree with you 100%. Everybody has some sort of nugget. What really stuck with me that you just said too, and I laughed, was we think it's being done one way, and you go check on it, and actually, it's not. So I think that's the important part about asking questions and then listening instead of just responding, so that we can learn where the alignment issues may or may not exist.
Sometimes it's like that game of telephone you played in first grade.
Oh yeah.
The message that went in, by the time it came out the other end, is completely garbled and not understandable, but everybody thought that they understood it perfectly and repeated it perfectly. So
message received, got it. Not the same message anymore.
Exactly.
Still get that to this day. Kind of rounding out here, Keith, what's one piece of advice that you'd give someone starting out in their career?
It's kind of the same as I said before. Talk to everybody. Find that person that in every aspect of the company you work for. Find a production manager to be a mentor to you. Find another veterinarian to be a mentor to you. Go make friends with the accounting department. Go make friends with the transportation department, because everybody in the company looks at things a little bit differently. So the more you can understand how they're looking at the world, the better able you are to adapt your recommendations or your solutions to fit the needs of the company. So, talk to a lot of people and learn as much as you can from everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like deep, be a sponge area right there. And I love like make the friends part with everybody, because there's something that my dad used to tell me a lot is everybody's on the payroll. So, so if you have friends somewhere, maybe they need help, there's a favor. This sounds a little mobby, right? But like, hey, here's a favor, I'll help you out. And probably when you need help, then they're going to help you out too. And it's or maybe be more truthful than they normally would be, if you have the detective hat on, right? So, 100%, I agree with like everything you said.
It's the time to meet somebody is not when you need their help desperately at 5:00 on a Friday afternoon. It's better to have met them and understand them a little bit before you have to go and ask for their help at 5:00 on Friday afternoon.
100%. That 100%. It's better to, you said it better. I'd ramble if I just kept saying it, but you can't be asking favors from somebody that you don't know, because that's going to give you a no for sure. There's no stopping that. But I always like asking this question too, Keith. If you could go back and give 18-year-old Keith one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, 18-year-old Keith. Well, the first thing I'd tell Keith is pay attention in algebra 3 or algebra 2, geometry, because having that math background is going to make your life a whole lot easier. The other thing I'd tell him, which is kind of how I got to where I am, is, if something looks interesting to you, take a chance and go for it. That's how you wind up doing fun stuff. And life's too short to stick in a job you hate just because. If you're dreading going to bed on Sunday evening because you have to get up Monday morning, it's probably time to reevaluate some things.
The math thing I resonate with very quickly, because my two daughters are in high school. One is applying to college right now. She's a senior. She'll be leaving soon, but both of them are great at math. But also, why do I need to do this? I don't need to understand this. What's doing this? I'm like, well, one of you is going into biology. You're going to need to know it. You're just going to have to. And it does. You said it perfectly. Makes everything easier. And the other piece that you said is also so true. So true. You're wise. You're not a boring guy, Keith. You're not a boring guy.
I appreciate that.
So last question, and I'm glad that I saw this before we talked about it before, because otherwise I'd be adding it to my list. But what are 3 books that you'd recommend to the audience and why?
Sure. So I put down 3. The first is a book by David Allen that came out probably 20 years ago called Getting Things Done. And I really bought it. I bought it in an airport bookshop just because it looked cool. And I read through it. He's got some really good ideas. I bought it more for the second half, was all about how to get organized. But actually I found out the first half of the book of, getting everything out of your mind into a place where you're sure that you can access it again, can relieve a whole lot of anxiety. Because as he says, your brain is for having ideas, not for keeping them. So that I don't always live up to it, but I try to live by that mantra and get everything down somewhere so that I don't have to keep thinking about it. Second one I put down was The Martian by Andy Weir, which is a great movie and a great book. Just an interesting tale of a human overcoming somewhat seemingly insurmountable odds. And science is important. Know how to do things. Know how stuff works. Mm-hmm. The third one, I actually was a tie between Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers or The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. Both are very. They're, if you just want to read a book that's not not too difficult to read. Both of those are a good choice, but if you spend a little time studying it, there's thoughts on philosophy, politics, science, all kinds of stuff in those books too. So,
yeah, I actually love your suggestions here. So The Martian, you're right, great movie. I felt the book was even better. I think it did a much better job, like explaining like the science behind some of the stuff. Where in a movie, it's like very, they got to keep it interesting. Starship Troopers and Ender's Game, along with The Hobbit, were probably the first 3 books I ever read. And you're totally right. It's a fun book. If you just want to pick up a book and read it, totally fun. Very different from the movie. But if you read into them, both of them really, they can be pretty deep. You can take some crazy nuggets out of both of them.
Absolutely. Now the movie wasn't bad.
No, the movie's super fun, but it's nothing like the book.
Nope.
Nothing like the book. So, all right, last question, Keith, and you are free to roam about the cabin, but where can listeners find you and MedGene online?
Find us on the internet at medgenelabs.com. Click on the link for the species you're interested in, and you'll have contact information for our sales team and our company. So check us out and learn more about prescription platform vaccines.
Awesome. Well, I'd recommend everybody do that because it's a pretty sweet product that you guys are coming up with. And with that, Keith, I've really loved having you here today.
Hey, I appreciate the invitation. It's been a fun conversation. Can't believe it's already been 25 minutes.
I know. I keep it easy, and see, you're not boring. You definitely have done a lot of interesting things. All right. Well, guys, thank you again for listening to Wisenetix Podcast. We'll see you next time.